Our baseball panel today, DraftKings contributor Kenny Ducey and RotoWire's Erik Halterman. It's MLB price check, dude. So which players do you like at the following positions in these price ranges? So Kenny, start with me and give me a pitcher at 8K or up.
Yeah, you know, whoever came up with the questions here, I'm really upset with them because I don't want to pay over $8,000. You know, this is a difficult slate to justify paying for any of these guys. But if I have to pick one, I think there's a pretty obvious answer, and that's Walker Buehler against the Cubs, 10.2K. The Cubs are one of the most strikeout-happy teams this year. They're sixth in strikeout rate, so that's going to help Buehler's strikeout stuff play up in a big way here against the Cubs. I think he'll rack up at least 9 or 10. And the Cubs, look, they've had some good offensive performances lately. You know, yesterday, obviously, they scored 12 runs. But this team's still has a 93 WRC plus, which is 15th in the league. They still have struggled to hit the ball despite a few big, offensive outbursts that make you think otherwise. I think that there's a pretty decent chance here that he goes 7, gives up a run or two, and they'll definitely win with Kyle Hendricks pitching for Chicago.
All right, well, producer Tom is not happy that you are taking a dump on his award-winning questions. Erik, I know you have no problem with this question, which is incredible. Your pitcher at 8K or higher on the slate.
Yeah, I won't insult anybody here, although I do agree it's an interesting slate where a lot of the fairly expensive pitchers are not much more reliable than the mid-price guys. So I think if you are going to pay up, I think it has to be one of the top two. I'll talk about Tyler Glasnow, who is the most expensive at 10,300. He hasn't had fewer than 19.3 fantasy points in any of his starts this season. Even when he's giving up runs, he's still striking out everybody. Double-digit strikeouts in 3 of his last 4 starts. That puts him 6th in strikeout rate on the season at 39.2%, which is the highest mark of his career. And it looks like a legitimate improvement because he's added a slider that he's used 28.7% of the time. He's facing a tough Angels offense here, but he's dominated everybody. So I think I'm comfortable using him against pretty much anybody in the league right now.
Well, Erik, since you are so professional and polite, could you give me a hitter over 5K you'd like?
Yeah, let's talk about Jose Ramirez. Mostly I'm interested in plenty of Cleveland hitters against Daniel Lynch, who's a decent prospect for the Royals, but he's never pitched above high A. He didn't dominate there either. Good numbers, but just a 23.5% strikeout rate isn't the kind of guy that you would expect to, jump a couple levels and immediately dominate at the major league level. Ramirez is usable against far better pitchers than Lynch. He's doing everything this year. He's 8 homers or 1 shy of the league lead. Excellent control of the zone, 13 walks against just 10 strikeouts. And he's added 4 steals too. He's doing everything he's supposed to. He's a pretty streaky player, but he's in one of those hot streaks now against a completely untested young arm. So very interested in him tonight.
Kenny, a solid chunk of hitters north of 5K to choose from. Which one you like?
I do like that call. Jose Ramirez was on my list, but I do want to talk about Trevor Story for a second. Because again, this is another sort of situation where the high price guys, most of them are Dodgers, right? And they play on teams that just have struggled to hit the ball lately. Some of them in bad matchups. I like Trevor Story here at $5,600. He's got 4 hits and 2 walks in his last 11 plate appearances. He gets to play at Coors Field in this one. And the Rockies, they've been dreadful away from Coors, although they did just start to score runs away from home against the Diamondbacks. But at Coors Field, they've been great hitting the ball. The biggest thing here, though, he's going to face a sinker baller in Aaron Sanchez. And Trevor Story is 381, or he was 381 off sinkers last year. 333 so far this year. So I think that this is a very good matchup for Story hitting on the top or near the top of the Rockies lineup. I think they score a lot of runs here off Sanchez, who's been due for a little bit of regression. And I think Story is a great play at $5,600 if you want to pay up.
Kenny, how about your hitter in the 4 to 5K range?
Yeah, this is not going to be a chalky guy, but I think that this guy easily can get you 10 to 12 points here at the minimum. And that's Marcus Semien at $5,000. Look, 3 for 6 with a homer and a double over his last 2 games. He's facing Frankie Montas here, who's one of my favorite pitchers to fade, which we'll get to in a second. He just throws 96 miles an hour right down the middle. I don't know why people like him, but Semien's starting to heat up. He does have a great lineup position on Toronto. And I think that this offense is finally starting to figure some things out. I think that they should score some runs here. And Semien, we know against the A's, right? You got the revenge narrative going on. We also know that he is a good hitter, and he just needs to, get back to being himself. I think that he's going to lift this Toronto lineup to new heights here, and he has a big game.
Erik, the $4,000 to $5,000 price range here on this MLB slate. Who's the hitter you want?
Yeah, Kenny hit the top of that range. I'll hit the bottom at 4,000 and go with Raimel Tapia. Going back to Coors Field, that never hurts to get a guy who's leading off for a lineup in Coors Field. He's facing Garen Sanchez, who Kenny talked about, is having a pretty decent season, but it's through a high ground ball rate. He allows plenty of contact. 20% strikeout rate is below average, and Tapia makes a ton of contact. He doesn't hit it for a ton of power, just 3 homers, but he's hitting 320 on the season after hitting 321 last year. So I think Sanchez is going to give him some hittable pitches. I think he should be in line for a couple hits and maybe some runs as the leadoff man tonight.
All right, how about a little less than that, Erik? How about a value bat?
Yeah, let's talk about Tyler O'Neill at just 2,800. He's been on fire over his last 5 games, 10 hits, 2 homers. His barrel rate this season has more than doubled from 8.2% to 17.1%. And his expected slugging is huge at 665. So everything's saying he's crushing the ball this season, which is what he's supposed to do when he happens to make contact. And he shouldn't have too much trouble happening to make contact with the platoon advantage against Joey Lucchesi, who's been barely used over the last 2 years after being a pretty decent pitcher his first 2 seasons. Has a 7.24 ERA and just 13.2 innings over the last 2 seasons. So definitely interested in some Cardinals righties against him, and O'Neill looks like the best bargain there.
Ducey, hook me up with a value bat.
Yeah, I wish I could do every segment with Erik. He's making a lot of sense here. I love Tyler O'Neill, one of my favorite players. Love him in this spot. I did like Tapia, but I didn't want to do 3 straight Coors guys. I do like Mike Tauchman here, though. $2,000 against the Rockies. $2,000. Pete Davidson had a great song about $2,000. He homered and hit second last night. He's 5 for 6 with a homer and a double and 5 RBIs with the Giants so far. This team traded for him with the long term in mind. They want to keep Tauchman around. They want to develop him into an outfielder that they can use in the next few years. So I don't see any reason why he wouldn't hit near the top of this lineup. They started him off in 8th, and I think that they're going to continue to bat him at the top of this lineup, at least in second, as long as Yastrzemski is out. So, yeah, fire up Tauchman here. I think that he should have another great game. I think there's going to be a lot of runs scored here. It is just impossible to pass at this price.
Deuce, who are you totally fading on this slate?
Yeah, that's I kind of alluded to it before, but Frankie Montas at $8,100. For some reason, people like Frankie Montas. People will tell you that he's good. I think that by now, most people are starting to come around to the fact that he's not very good. His 6.2 ERA is not a fluke. He's got a 40.7% hard hit rate. A 14.8% barrel rate this year is just absolutely atrocious. He's just allowed a ton of hard contact. And again, this guy just pumps 96. I think that's why people think he's going to be good. He also had a good 2018, but the peripherals tell you that he is not a good pitcher, and he's one of many Oakland A's starters I like fading, but I think he's like maybe the favorite to fade. So I think that the Blue Jays here have a great game.